Hey Buffalo, you up? I am Airy Fairy Nicole, and you are listening to the Buffalo You Up podcast. Dude man, you up?
Oh, I'm always up. And how's it going today, Buffalo? My name is Brian Dudeman. You're listening to the Buffalo Yo podcast. And for this episode of the Buffalo Yo podcast, we are here with Will Nemi. Will, thank you so much for joining us today on the Buffalo Yo podcast. I would just like to know one thing, Will. Are you up?
Oh, I'm up. Totally. 6 to midnight.
Today we have a very special guest with us here. How do you prefer your name pronounced?
Will's fine. Nemi. Will Nemi.
And that's your IMDb name? Is that the name we can follow your acting work? Because I know you've been an actor for quite some time. Yeah. But you do other things too, right?
Writing would be one. Acting. I mostly stay in those two fortes, I guess. But the comedy, I would say I'm big on comedy, but writing and then acting, really. Crew stuff, I have no idea. I appreciate very much crew when I'm working on films because I cannot do what I do without them. So I'm very always appreciative because I can turn a camera on maybe.
So our first segment of the show is where we have our guest here, Will. Thanks again, Will, for taking your time out to be here. We are going to have some questions from our fans for Will to answer here. So speaking to our listeners and fans out there, if you have any questions, do send them in to us. You can send them in via Facebook at the Buffalo You Up podcast. You can also send them in via Instagram at Buffalo You Up. We don't know much about Twitter yet, but I don't think that's relevant at this time. So send us in some questions for our guest here to answer, and we'll answer them right here on the show.
Ari, if you don't mind, can I please ask the first question?
Of course you can. You just did. But you can ask another one.
No, that was my first question. I just want to know, could I ask the first question? Ari, please, by all means.
This one comes to us via Facebook from Sally B. Sally B says, "Hey, Will, I heard about you earlier on Ari's live video." Oh, I think I know who this is. Hey, Sally. And she mentioned that you were working on the 48-hour film festival this year, which is very exciting. Now, I remember that Ari won Best Film and a half a dozen awards last year, but I can't remember much about your film. Can you tell us which awards you won last year and which ones you are hoping to win this year in this year's festival?
I've been in Buffalo Above. That was my group the last few years. 2 years ago, we did Guardians, which was a comedy, which was really funny. Fabulous. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's funny because I was doing a modeling shoot that night, the night before, because I did the 48 2 years before that. Yeah, that's why. No, but I got a call. It was after the shoot, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and we were out having drinks and eating, and they're like, "Hey, can you be on set tomorrow 8 a.m. because you're an actor and we need an actor in it." They didn't have a lead, so I did, and they were just like, "This is the scene, just do what you do." And I went in. Oh my god, I had so much fun. That made the top 10. That won a couple awards last year. I think it was a really good film. It was called The Story of Us, but it had to be a silent film. It was intense. I just feel like in the 40, the format of the 48 hours silent film, you kind of already have a handicap to it because you can only convey so much in that small time, and taking the dialogue out of it, it really presses on the actors. So I think we did fantastic. I thought it was a really great film, because then it's all facial expressions and tone and theme, but I think in this sense, I think it's better to be able to have some dialogue, to be honest. But no, I'm proud of that film. It didn't win any awards. It got nominated for a couple of things, but didn't win. And then there's this year, which I think is the best maybe acting out of all three. I would say it'd win best acting maybe.
Bill wants to know, who is your favorite Will? Is it William Shakespeare, William Shatner, or Will I Am from the Black Eyed Peas and Fergie fame?
But soft would light through yonder window breaks. It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale, grief that thou her made art far more fair than she.
Correct.
Will I Am. William Shakespeare is the first one. He's the OG, man. He did it all. He did it, and he's funny.
Okay, this question here is from Ashley through Instagram. Hey, Ashley. And Ashley is super stoked that you are involved in Turn Up the Night. Oh. She said, if it's an 80s film about music, which group is your favorite hair metal band from the 80s?
That's a tough one, honestly. My favorite, like, classic old school band's Queen. I love Queen. I'm a huge Queen. Freddie Mercury, I mean, that's inspiration. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a grunge 80s band, but Queen was all through the 70s, 80s, up until, the early 90s. And now with Adam Lambert, I mean, Mom.
I don't diss Queen. I love Queen. My kitty cat's name is Galileo, Figaro, Magnifico. Enough said.
There's like the Aerosmiths and Axl Rose and Queen. That's where you're going to find my inspirations for the character that I'm doing.
Well, guys, that's going to do it for the first segment of the Buffalo Podcast. Podcast listeners, remember, if you want your questions read on air, please send them our way through our Facebook, which is Buffalo Podcast, or our Instagram, which is Buffalo You Up. Have your questions sent out to us. We will read them right here on the podcast, and the guest will answer them for you on the podcast. There is one other thing, though, that I almost forgot. I don't always do this every episode, Will, so consider yourself lucky on this one. Sometimes we will ask the guest if they have any questions for the host. So if you have a question for Ari or myself, please, by all means, man.
Let's see, a good question. You're releasing your series now, right?
The podcast and this web series, Inside Sex Revolution Skyraphy, a Kyle S. title, yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you got coming up?
Well, yeah, actually, it's a really good question. So I am a video production major and an English minor. There's a lot that I'm hoping to do with my degree. I could be a radio guy. I could be a DJ. I can host podcasts like the Buffalo Podcast, or there's actually another podcast I do by myself. It's called the You Up Podcast Exclusive. So the way that one works is I ask voiceover artists if they can help lend their voices and create some fake ads for the Buffalo Podcast. Afterwards, I bring them on to the You Up Podcast Exclusive, and I ask them about the experience. I say, how'd you like doing the ad with me? And, what do you think I need to work on so that way I can evolve as a writer-director? So, yeah, that's what I've got going on is the Buffalo Podcast, Fredonia, the You Up Podcast Exclusive, and also I am planning on doing a short horror comedy called The West End Girls. I'm going to start casting for that around the holiday season, and then after that one, I got Biker Babes from Outer Space, which is an action-adventure comedy. But that's a really great question, though, Will. Thank you so much. I know that I went into a lot of detail there, but yeah, there's a lot going on in my life right now, so I hope that answered that question, Will. Thank you.
We do have to take a commercial break as we're getting a very important call. And we are back with the Buffalo You Up podcast. And moving on to our next segment, we call this segment Where to Find Me. So, Will, we would like to know where we can find you, whether it be videos of previous acting work you've done before, any live theater performances you have coming up, any musical performances. Let us know where we can see you, whether it be live or recorded. What do you have coming up soon besides the 48-hour film festival premieres?
The most two recent projects that we were talking about, Turn Up the Night. So that's with Rick Massey. Do you guys have any questions about that? It helped me lead into it a little more.
Yes. When Rick was recently a guest on the Buffalo You Up podcast, he had given us a Buffalo You Up exclusive. He had said that your girlfriend, Melody, is actually co-directing Turn Up the Night. So then this makes me ask this question. What is it like to have your girlfriend co-direct you?
basically the same thing every other day, right? In regular life, I guess. She tells me what to do, and I do it. It's really good. No, I see. I appreciate her. She has very much talent. Like too much. It's annoying. But Rick, because I mean, it's such a bigger thing than what he's done before. It's such a big project, especially him being in it. I mean, he really needed somebody that had the same vision and was able to kind of take over those duties for him when he's in the scenes and help. And that's a perfect co-director. I mean, she'll be a director in the future. I'm more of a writer, I think, but no, she's fantastic. Stuff. What?
They didn't teach you anything about lighting in college? You said you went to college for theater?
Yeah, but I didn't pay attention to that.
Where'd you go to college?
I just went to N-Trip.
I went to Niagara County Community College for theater, and I know that they have a very in-depth technical production for theater course.
Some of the teachers, like my one professor, he was my director in one of the shows. He knew like Anthony Rapp from like, Rent and stuff. Like he went to school with him back in the day, and some of those teachers really helped me out. I really appreciate at least the actings. Roger Kiker.
Oh, I love Roger. Oh, my goodness.
Killed it. I remember I was a sports management major, actually, then, back in the day. So real quick, I was raised Catholic, so every year,
Me too.
right, not anymore, but they'd have the play, the nativity story every year. So every year I look forward to this one time, to do acting and stuff every year. So, like, I loved it, and every year my part grew, and that was all about it, always about entertaining. So I was probably like 11 or 12, and I went to my parents. I was like, can I go to acting school? And they're like, no, like, it's expensive. Shut up. And I was like, okay, I'm going to play sports still. And then I just played sports. And then, like, I was 19. It was like my second year of college or something. And I played baseball, actually, at N-Trip, too. And I came back, and my buddy was doing West Side Story. And he was like, hey, you want to get in it? It's really big scenes. We were drinking at the bar, by the way, for our PG listeners. What is this, PG? It was Shirley Temples. But anyways, me and my buddy was like, hey, it won't be a lot of work. Come do it. You can do fight scenes and stuff. It was a lot of freaking work, by the way. It's like 6 hours a day. But I loved it. So I went back to N-Trip, and I took an acting for non-majors class with Roger. And he cast me as a lead in the next show, and I never looked back.
And what was that show?
On the Timing by David Ives. Loved it. It was great. This was 40 years ago now, by the way.
So yeah, we only have a few minutes left here, Will. So I'm going to ask you about the other film that you're currently doing, which is Them. I know that's an Adam Staggert picture, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell us a little bit more about Them?
But have you seen like any of Adam Steigert's movies? I think you have, correct?
I saw
Star, right? So that's the other film I did. We wrapped recently. It'll be coming out next year. And it's called The Horrific Evil Monsters. It's basically a culmination, almost like a monster verse of all his movies combined. He had Fang, he had Star, he had Grim Becoming, or he has all these movies, and it's kind of like an Avengers style team up almost. Like this movie, it's Them, The Horrific Evil Monsters. Them is like a secret organization. So all these monsters, movie monsters, kind of, you got a zombie, you have an alien, you have a serial killer, you have an action star, like all these, and they come together to fight the four horsemen of the apocalypse, basically like that. So that's another film that I've recently done it's got a lot of attention.
So you've got Turn Up the Night, you've got Them. Well, you're doing a lot right now, man. Is there like an Instagram or a Facebook actors page where like these fans, these followers that you have can just find Will Nemi? Your Instagram?
Oh, my Instagram, it's the official Will Nemi, and my Facebook, I have an actors page, Facebook, which is under Will Nemi, and then I have like my own personal page, which is a little less PC, a little more fun.
I think I recently saw a photo of you and Brian Patrick Stoley lip syncing something at some karaoke event. Can you tell me a little about that project, or was that for like a short film or anything? Or was that just you guys hanging out? Tell me what was that like, with BPS?
Brian Patrick Stoley?
Yeah,
he's in Diary of a Lunatic.
Yeah.
Which he's awesome. We just did it recently. We had the rap party and we went to karaoke and we crushed I Want It That Way by Backstreet Boys. Just to let everybody know that.
I'm a
Where can we see that?
That is online. That is online on both my pages, and It was intense. It was the best karaoke I've ever done.
I'm a huge BPS fan.
I mean,
fanboy.
it was hilarious because, like, you know, karaoke and people, like, it was like a concert. Like, there was, like, a crowd of people and there was, like, a stage. And I was, like, felt like Ryan Seacrest was about to, like, pop out and be like, text in now for, like, it was really fun. Also, drinks were included in that day night, too. So.
I have to ask you, which Backstreet Boy do you relate to the most?
Relate to the most? How he's misunderstood. I don't know. No, that's a good question. Not Kevin. He's old. Well, I'm old. Nick. He's young. I always like Brian. Honestly, is this putting like too much information? Like I know the Backstreet. It's old. I'm old.
Asking you which one you relate
AJ. He was always the bad boy. I mean,
Good answer.
yeah, maybe him.
All right, well, it looks like Will has a lot of projects coming out. So podcast listeners, please be on the lookout for Will's projects. Ari and myself, we're personally going to be, going to these events and seeing what Will's got going on. Yeah, that does it for the second segment of the Buffalo podcast. Keep it locked, and we'll be right back.
Well, we are back, Buffalo. Hope you're still up. Dude, man, are you?
Ari, I would like to go on public record and say that I'm always up.
All right. Well, I think it's that time of the show where we ask our guests if they have any final words for us on what they felt about being on the show and how they feel about our Buffalo You Up podcast and just any other 2 cents they want to add.
Yes. First off, thank you for having me on, of course. I like your t-shirts. They're pretty cool, actually. I'm very disappointed that this third host did not show up. Like, he was like, nah, not this guy.
More of our color commentator.
Yeah, I listened to one of the podcasts. I was like, oh, he's funny. And, like, and now he's not here, and I'm disappointed. So, whatever his name is, Mark, Kyle, Frank, Jesus, I don't know. But I'm upset with you, bro. I'm coming for you. That is not a threat. It's a threat. No, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I don't care. I love doing stuff like this, especially promoting the arts. I appreciate you guys for just having a show like this because I think Buffalo's like a great place especially for film. Theater, of course, but like I think it's blowing up more and more people are coming here to shoot films.
I think that's a really good way to end this podcast. Ari, can you please do the honors and send us home?
So it's Ari, Ferry, Nicole, Brian, Dude Man,
Yes.
and Will, Dude Fairy, Nemi.
Well, I have been Ari, Fairy, Nicole.
I've been Brian, Oodly Doodly Scoodly Dude Man.
I'm Will.
And that's it for our Buffalo You Up podcast. We just have one more question for you, Buffalo.
You up?
Check that out.